So today I want to persuade you to make better choices regarding sodium intake and its relation to heart disease. Heart disease is not a joke and can create some serious health problems, and it's not restricted to an age. So due to a recent family member and their hospitalization, I've had some firsthand experience with speaking with cardiologists and internists, pulmonologists, nutritionists, and nurses regarding sodium and heart disease and its effect to our health and how to be healthier. So what I'm going to present to you today is some information that will go over sodium intake and a guide to use as informed choices in the future, along with some statistics that are pretty interesting. So first, let's start with what we know or what we thought we knew. A recent survey conducted of this class regarding our sodium habits shows that we are not at very healthy levels. So the max recommended dosage of sodium per day, according to several sources, is 2,300 milligrams. So when I asked members of this class on the survey which one of these measurement devices is equivalent to 2,300 milligrams of sodium, a measuring cup, a measuring tablespoon, or a teaspoon, only 30% chose the right answer, which is a teaspoon. So just to kind of help show what 2,300 milligrams equates to, so that's a teaspoon. I put a tea bag there so you can kind of see the size better. And then that's a teaspoon or 2,300 milligrams of salt in my hand. So not really a whole lot when you go to think about it. So also in that same survey, when I asked students if they frequently added salt to their foods, 60% of them said yes. And asked what would help convince you to watch your sodium regularly. One reply was knowing more about the bad effects it can have on your body, and that's something I hope that we can address today. And another one was when I asked if manufacturers could do something better to help consumers make healthier decisions. One reply was to make nutrition labels larger and highlight things that are particularly important. And actually, the manufacturers are starting to already do this. So this is just a can of evaporated milk I had in the cupboard, and on the front of it, there's actually a little enlarged section, and that includes what the sodium is on this. So they are starting to make some ground here. So it sounds like we could use some education about sodium to understand what it is and what it does to our bodies. We'll get started with that. So sodium in particular is, according to the American Heart Association from 2017, and this is a quote, sodium is a mineral that's essential for life. It's regulated in the body by your kidneys and helps control your body's fluid balance. It also helps send nerve impulses and affect muscle function. And supporting statement by the FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, from 2018, sodium is a mineral and one of the chemical elements found in salt. So that doesn't sound so bad, right? Or complicated. So why is sodium bad? According to Robert Schmerling's article from 2014, too much sodium consumption can increase blood pressure and cause the body to hold on to fluid. High blood pressure is a major risk factor for heart attack, stroke, and other cardiovascular problems. Excess fluid can cause swelling in the legs and more serious problems such as congestive heart failure in people with poor heart function. American Heart Association from 2018, when talking about the effects of sodium, they compare it to, it's like turning up the water supply to a garden hose. The pressure in the hose increases as more water is blasted through it. Over time, the high blood pressure may overstretch or injure the blood vessel walls and speed buildup of gunky plaque that can block blood flow. The added pressure also tires out the heart by forcing it to work harder to pump blood throughout the body. So also, according to the FDA from 2018, approximately 50% of the adults in the U.S., 18 and older, have high blood pressure. and 10% of children in the U.S. Have high blood pressure. So with my own experience, that involved a 43-year-old family member who with heart failure and swelling in the extremities due to high blood pressure and excess sodium. So again, age is not a factor here. The World Health Organization from 2016 says reducing salt intake has been identified as one of the most cost-effective measures that countries can take to improve population health outcomes. Sorry. So now we understand what sodium is and why it's bad. Let's see what we can do to get healthier. How can we improve our sodium intake? First, don't add salt when you're at the table or when you're cooking. You saw that 2,300 milligrams of salt is a very small portion in your hand. It adds up all throughout the day. So the more that you add unknowingly to foods, the worse off you're going to be. The harder it's going to be to manage those levels. So instead of using salt to flavor the foods, flavor it with things like herbs, spices, lemon, lime, vinegar. There's also a lot of salt-free seasonings. The Mrs. Dash brand of seasonings has a bunch of different flavors. There's Pinterest always that can help you make some of these on your own at a better cost. You should always cook with unsalted or low sodium broths or bouillons. But surprisingly though, most of the salt in our diets comes from sodium that's already in the foods when we buy it. And this is kind of hiding. So watch the ingredients when you're cooking and what the sodium levels are, and keep the 2,300 milligram max daily amount in your mind. Things like sauces that are added to cooking, like soups or soy sauce or ketchup, those are extremely high in sodium and can really take up your daily intake. So according to the American Heart Association from 2017, the best way to reduce sodium is to avoid prepackaged, processed, and prepared foods, which tend to be high in sodium. And the Mayo Foundation for Medical Education and Research in 2018, they say taste alone cannot tell you what foods are high in sodium. So for example, you might not think a bagel tastes salty, but a typical 4-inch oat bran bagel has about 600 milligrams of sodium, and even a slice of whole wheat bread contains about 100 milligrams of sodium. So 600 milligrams of sodium in a bagel, that's a quarter of your daily allowance, and that's a plain bagel without any toppings. So another thing you can do is when purchasing fresh meats, pay attention to the labels on the packages. Some meats have been packaged with a preserving salt solution, which adds sodium. So you can rinse this solution off before cooking the meat, but you'll still have some that remains. So the best is to find options that do not have the salt solution added to it. And it'll be on the package, it'll tell you that. So additionally, fresh or frozen vegetables are preferred over canned. If you use canned ones, try to choose ones that are low sodium options. Regardless if it's canned, the best practice is to rinse the vegetables to remove as much of that sodium as possible before you cook it. So some examples of the worst sodium foods include bread and rolls, cold cuts, cured meats, pizza, poultry, soup, and sandwiches. Another suggestion is to try to avoid products that have 200 milligrams of sodium per serving. And be sure you know how many servings are in a package, and that is also from the Mayo Foundation from 2018. Always read labels when you're shopping and do it very cautiously. So I'm not sure how well this will show up. Maybe not well at all on here. Sorry. So I've got a chart from the FDA, U.S. Food and Drug Administration from 2018, and they classify what is salt, what labels can read. Like if they say they're salt or sodium free, they have to have less than 5 milligrams of sodium. If they say low or reduced sodium, a low sodium product has to have less than 140 milligrams. Reduced sodium means that it's at least 25% less than the original product. So it doesn't mean it's low, but it means it's reduced from the original. Something that's light, something that says no salt added or unsalted does not mean sodium free. It just means there was no salt added during the manufacturing process. So that item still could be unhealthy. You still need to turn the label around and look at the actual sodium content to see how its effect will be for you today. So another, I guess, myth is we've kind of learned that sea salt was thought to be better than regular salt for your bodies. And actually, sea salt, when in terms of sodium, is just as unhealthy. So according to the World Health Organization from 2016, sea salt is not better than manufactured salt simply because it's natural. Regardless of the source of salt, it is the sodium in the salt that causes that bad health outcomes. And the National Kidney Foundation from 2017 says, before dining out, do your research. Visit the the restaurant's website, which should list the sodium content of various dishes served there. Alternatively, when you're at the restaurant ready to order, you can request the dish be served without salt. You can always ask for fries without salt. So I hope this helps to give you a quick review of the effects of sodium and educate you on how important it is to your health. So please consider taking actions to keep your sodium in check and your heart healthy. So as we discussed, watching your sodium intake can make a strong impact on your health and save you money. So according to the American Heart Association from 2018, one estimate suggested that if the U.S. population moved to an average intake of 1,500 milligrams a day of sodium from its current level, it could actually result in a 25.6% overall decrease in blood pressure and an estimated $26.2 billion in healthcare savings. Also from the World Health Organization from 2016, an estimated 2.5 million deaths could be prevented each year if global salt consumption were reduced to the recommended levels. So, World Health Organization member states, and this is a quote, have agreed to reduce the global population's intake of salt by a relative 30% by 2025. Reducing salt intake has been identified as one of the most cost-effective measures countries can take to improve population health outcomes. So, basically, while reducing sodium can be a noticeable adjustment at first, it won't take long before you won't realize it. The National Kidney Foundation from 2017 says salt preference is an acquired taste that can be unlearned. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get used to eating food with much lower quantities of salt, but once it's done, it's actually difficult to eat foods like potato chips because they taste way too salty. So basically, take control of your health and teach your taste buds to enjoy healthier food options. Both your heart and your wallet will thank you.